Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Protect Academy's webinar. Today is another special one because we have Mr. Saz Rai with us, and we're super excited for that. It's been a long time since he's joined us for one of these events. So, before we commence, let's just wait for like a minute or so that more people can join in. And yeah, then we will get on with the session. So, once again, thank you so much for joining. So today we have the industry legend, Mr. Sazrai, with us, and this man needs no introduction. So I am not going to waste your time with blabbering on. So I would like to introduce Mr. Sazrai to the stage, sir. You can take on.
All right, thank you so much. Just give me just a moment. Let me share my screen.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ghazal. I'm sharing my screen. Is it visible? If you can help me
One
with that.
second, sir. Now it is. Yeah, so it is a gray screen. I think that's how
Yeah,
it
yeah,
starts, right?
great,
Yeah,
great
perfect,
screen.
perfect.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so welcome everyone. Yeah, today's webinar from zero to season in 60 days, right? And is there a way to pause my screen if I want, if I have to?
Yes, I think so, sir. So if you don't press the next button or something, I think it'll stay paused. It'll stay frozen.
Okay, okay, all right. Hang on. Cool. Okay, I think this works. Yeah, so welcome everyone, and this is the webinar from zero to season in 60 days. Like, 60 days is more than enough for one to become a season. And let me talk to you about how we're going to do that. Before that, my brief introduction. My name is Saj Rai. I have over 2 decades of experience in various industries, and I've also had leadership positions. Including head IT, CTO, VP IT, etc., leading different IT teams and different organizations. I've also been teaching and training for over 10 years now, and that thousands of people across different courses. And I am an authorized instructor for several most cybersecurity courses, including the ISACA CISM as well. That's my brief introduction, and want to jump into today's course, which is the CISM, which is a Certified Information Security Manager. And so this particular course is designed for those who manage, design, oversee, and assess an enterprise's information security function. So if your role is aligned to one of these, you are you manage information security function, or you design, or you oversee, or you assess, then this is the course for you. Having said that, CSM is one of the most sought after certification course, and in terms of the salary as well, I think this is one of the most sought after certification. We can see CSM is right on top three. This is one of the survey I pulled the data from. Okay, so CIRISC, CISM, CISSP, CISA, PMP, and so on. These are some of the certifications that are sought after in the industry. And so you're in good hands. So the benefits of becoming CISM certification. I suppose most of you are familiar with what CISM is and why you want to be CISM, but nonetheless, well, this will expand your knowledge and skills to build confidence in what you are going to do, you're going to say, the decision that you're going to make is all based on these principles and knowledge that you gain from here. Increases your market value. As I said, people with CISM certifications, there are not too many out there, and there's a huge demand. It builds customer confidence and international credibility. So this certificate is recognized internationally, and so having this CISM certification knows that you have the knowledge, you have the skill sets to be able to implement, manage, assess the information security program within the organization. That you are able to follow the best practices being used in the industry. And many times these are requirements, especially in the government positions and certain positions, you are required to have a season certification. Now, the path to become season certified, well, the first thing is you need to review the requirements. You need to know if you qualify, if you are the right person to become a season. And I'll talk about this then later on. Well, study the CISM domains, be familiar with the concepts, the principles that CISM talks about, right? And, and so we'll be familiar with the domains. I'll talk about this. Uh, I'll talk about this more. And and once you understand the principles, because as a manager, you're making decisions, and there may be plenty of choices in front of you. The question is, what is the right decision to make? Well, that will depend on the principles that you learn. Okay, so you, and even in the exam, unlike most exam where you are required to answer the correct question, sorry, correct answer, you're required to select the correct answer, where there's only one correct answer here. But in a CISM, there are more than one correct answer, okay? More than one correct options. So you need to select the best option. Okay, the question could be saying, what is the best answer, or the greatest, or the lowest, or the highest, or whatever, or the next step to do. So usually, the like I said, the answer is not the you're not looking for the correct answer. You're looking for the best answer, and to be able to decide that, you need to have that knowledge. You need to know the principles, and that's what you learn with season. Okay, this is the right thing to do. Okay, and once you are ready, then you obviously register for the exam, and you pass the exam, and then you go on to maintain that certificate. Okay, so that's the path, and this is where you're going to spend a lot of time studying and preparing for the exam, because this learning that you have for season should not only help you pass the exam, but this should help you in your career and be able to use these principles in your career as an information security manager throughout your life. Okay, and yeah, so these are things which you will need to know, like the experience requirement. You need to have 5 years of experience, um, and I wouldn't recommend CISM for anybody who's just a beginner. There are lots of beginners course out there. You may want to attend those, such as Security CompTIA Security Plus exams. And I think 5 years of experience, that threshold is a good limit, because uh, for a CISM, and I keep saying this, you need to think like a manager. Okay, you can't be thinking like a technician. There's a difference how you think like a manager and a technician, and that's important. I think you that experience of at least 5 years is important. Though there are some waivers and so on, but I again don't recommend this course for beginners. The exam is well, for 4 hours. You got to answer 150 multiple choice questions. Okay, and as I mentioned before, the questions has there are four options with the question. There's only one answer that you need to select, And many times, as I mentioned before, you not only have to select the correct answer, you got to select the best answers. Okay, so there could be multiple correct answers. You got to find the best, and that's what I teach you, those principles as to how to go about selecting those best answer. Well, and also CISM talks about certain principles, thumb rules, and I call them the thumb rules. And this is what you learn during the course as well. You got to know what those thumb rules are, because that's the one that you're going to select in the exam as well as in your career as well. They have a very strange passing score. It says that you need to, it's a scale score of 450 out of a possible 800. So you need to score 450 out of possible 800 scores. I mean, they really don't tell you how to go about doing this. But it's so if you just calculate, it's not like 56%. It's not like that. I think so they don't really tell you exactly what's the percentage you need to score. But my estimate is that if you are scoring about 70% and above in the practice test, then you are in a good position to pass the exam. Okay, 70. Anything less than 70, you would struggle to pass the exam. But like I said, there is no correlation with the percentages that we score in a test to the scale score that CISM has. Or ISACA generally has this scale score for all of their certification courses. The exam fees are on the screen, right? And you notice two things: that if you're a member, it's a lot of discounted price there. The membership fee, I think, is per annum. It's about, I've forgotten, but it should be around 140 to $150, including your local fees and so on. So what it means is that if you become a member, pay those membership fees about $150, and then you uh, purchase the exam. You purchase the exam voucher. It's still you're saving money, right? So it's advantageous to become a member because, well, one is that you get a discount here in the exam fees. Also, there are other many benefits, like you get a discount on your exam, other materials. There are a lot of free stuff that they provide to the members. So I will highly recommend that you become a member and then take that membership fee and the member exam fees that you pay $575. Exam resources. Now, these are the three things that I want you to think about. You don't need a lot of materials for season. These three materials: one is the review manual. This is an official book from ISACA, and this is really good, so you should use this one. And they also provide you with an additional Q&A. That's another companion book, and this contains all the different type of questions per domain. They've kind of categorized per domain, and it has the questions, the answers, and the explanation. So this gives you a very good sense of what kind of questions to expect in the exam. It's very unlikely that you will get the same question in the exam. Okay, that's very unlikely. But the principles would pretty much be the same. So if you understand the concept and the principles, the exam questions will seem very familiar. It may not be the same question, but be very familiar. And also, these Q&A questions. This is a good way for you to again test yourself. Okay, review your lessons, test yourself, and you are if you are consistently scoring about 70% and above, like I said, you are in the right track. Okay. And there's this exam candidate guide. It's online, available free of cost. I'll probably share the link a little later on, and go through that document. It'll kind of give you all the details as to how to go about registration for your exam, what to do on the exam day, if you are okay, if you can reschedule, and all those details are there in the exam guide. Okay, it's free of cost. You can download this document. The first two documents are paid documents you can purchase from the ISACA stores. Okay. So I hope it's clear. So please feel free to ask questions on the chat window, and but I'll also try to have a Q&A at the very end, and you can ask the questions then. Well, to get into it, there are these four domains that you need to learn to pass the exam. Uh, One more time, we have domain one, which is information security governance, and then we have information security risk management, then information security program, then the incident management. And there are these percentages, as you can see, percentages. Um, so out of that, how many questions out of 150 you can, you can probably get an idea out of that. It's not a major difference, but yes. So if you look at domain one and domain three, it's almost domain three is almost 50% more, right? But having said that, all the domains are important, and the domains are interlinked. You start with domain one, which is about information security governance. So do you understand the why you need to have an information security program? Then you establish a program by having a risk management. Then many other things that you need to do as part of the information security program, and then also running your um, secure operations, resilient operations by managing incidents. Let me quickly take you through how to go about, and and the good thing is that there are only four domains, and you can plan to study these domains if you're planning for that 60 days plan. And what's a 60-day study plan? So you, for the first week one and week two, you can go with the information security governance. Okay, this one, and this domain gives you the bigger picture as to what is information security governance, how is it related to the enterprise governance, right? And who all are, what are the roles and responsibilities of, let's say, the board of directors, the senior management, and various others roles within the organization. Okay, understanding what is information security strategy, how is it related to the enterprise strategy. So these are some of the bigger picture that you need to understand in this particular domain, right? So the importance of information security governance. Without that, ideally you shouldn't have any information security program, right? So this sets up that the groundwork for those things. Like, it'll give an insight as to the cultures, the regulations and structures, um, the, the responsibilities of the board of directors, the steering committees, what do they do, and so on. So, and a very important domain to set that baseline. And so these are some of the things that it talks about, like the strategic alignment, aligning your IT investment into the business, to help business meet its goals and objectives. Risk management is another important aspect. Delivering value to your stakeholders, resource optimizations, measuring measuring your performance to know that you're on the right track. So you need to determine these metrics like KPIs and KRIs and so on, and to integrate the assurance process in the organization. You need to understand these in detail, but that's what you learn during the course. What does it mean, right? And so this is one of those domains which I think a lot of people will struggle, because most of them do not come from a governance background. They do not really understand that the bigger picture, the role the board plays, or the senior management plays, or your role within the organization, right? So you may not understand those things. So this is one of those, while it's a smaller domain, but takes a little more time to understand. For example, what is the mission of the organization? What does it mean? Okay, mission, vision, goals, objectives, strategy. These are terms which you keep on hearing, but what does it mean? Okay, so you need to understand those things. It's actually not very difficult if you want, once you understand it. But yeah, to, because your mindset, if you come from a very technical background, you've never had managerial experience or leadership experience. So these things, the mindset that you need to have to understand about information security governance is very different. Then for the next 2 weeks, then we can get into the risk management. Risk management, I think, is a really good course for anybody. It's everybody's responsibility to become to manage risk for the organization. Whatever role that you play, right? You could be in the GRC, you could be an information manager, you could be managing vulnerabilities or pen testing, or whatever role that you play. You're in a way trying to mitigate the risk for the organization, right? And this is one of the courses which kind of covers risk quite in detail. Another course which I highly recommend is the C risk, which discusses we learn about risk management even more in detail. But this actually is a pretty good course compared to many other courses, where you understand about what is a risk, how is it a risk is a factor of threat, exploiting the vulnerability, resulting in some impact. So these things are discussed a lot in detail. So the four phases that we generally talk about in risk management, here they are. We understand this risk identification, right? Identifying what the threats, vulnerabilities, impact is. Then you do a risk assessment, you do a qualitative, quantitative risk assessments, risk analysis, and after which we respond to the risk. Either we transfer, avoid, mitigate, accept, and so on. And then we get into a monitoring, so making sure that the risk remains at the acceptable levels, and any changes, whether it could be internal factors or external factors, you are monitoring it and you are reporting those risk things. So we kind of covered these in detail in the risk management. Like I said, it's a very generic risk management life cycle. And once you understand these concepts and principles, you can apply this to any other risk management framework. You could be learning about, let's say, NIST risk management framework. It could be ISO, COSO, or any other framework. The principles are the same, and that's what you learn here, the principles of risk management, right? And then we move on to week 5 and 6, where we have information security program. This is one of the bigger domain, and lots of concepts around implementing the program. So risk management is one of the aspect of this information security program, but there are other things as well. Okay, for example, well, managing your assets, securing your assets. Okay, or other resources like people, or having some kind of standards and frameworks, uh, implementing policies, procedures, standards, guidelines. Okay, setting up metrics, and so on, implementing controls, right? Because you want control to reduce the risk for the organizations, right? Security awareness and training, managing third party providers, and so on, communicating those programs. There's a lot of things that you need to do in that information security program. So, setting up the program and running the program are two different things. And your role, like I said, as a uh, information security manager, you will need to be able to do these things. Okay, and a lot of things here. And this is a lightly more technical domain in terms of you need to be able to implement controls, physical controls, administrative controls, as well as technical controls. And there could be a lot of questions around technical controls, such as encryptions and firewalls, IDS, IPS, and so on, DMZs and load balancers, web proxies, access controls, and so on. So you need to know those, the technical aspect also. It's not a very technical course. It's not a technician course. It's a managerial course where you need to know what to use, when to use, right? For example, why would you use a digital signature, okay, versus a, a symmetric cryptography or an asymmetric cryptography? You need to know those difference. What is it and why do we use it? The how is not important. You don't need to know how to digitally sign, but you need to know what is a digital signature and why would you use a digital signature, for example. Yeah. And then this is one of the bigger domain, like I said, and a lot of technical discussions here, lots of controls we need to understand. And the final domain, which is for the last 2 weeks, is your incident management. So this actually is a little. You need to understand again what's the relationship between, let's say, a risk management and incident management. Right? They're related. They're related. And what's an incident and a risk related? You need to understand that. But you also need to understand the relationship between incident and a disaster. They're also related there. And so this particular domain also covers not only just incident response, but also the disaster. So if an incident becomes a disaster, then you need to uh, execute your business continuity plan and the disaster recovery plan, right? So that ways, the whole idea here is to have a smooth and resilient operations, and you need to manage those incidents within the acceptable levels. Why? So that the business can achieve its goals and objectives. Now that is what we learn in domain one. Okay, that the IT exists, or information security exists, to support the business goals and objectives. And so this is what we do here as part of your incident management and disaster management, to make ensure that the organization is running smoothly, it's resilient, because organizations will have incidents. Organizations will have faced various kind of disasters. Could be fire, could be DDoS attack, ransomware attack, a pandemic, or a natural disasters, and so on. And the question is, how do we keep on operating our critical functions? And this is what we learn here. Okay, it's an important domain, and about I think 30% in the exam is about. Okay, so these are the overview. I think, as I mentioned, the four domains is a lot more in detail. They have to go into a lot of depth to understand these domains, and gives you a lot of information to be able to, like I said, manage, and operate and assess your information security program. Okay, a lot of these things that you need to do here. So the final tips from my side is, well, first of all, become familiar with these topics, what to expect. The season calls it job practice areas. Okay, all the four domains and the topics within it. And also within that, like I keep saying, there are these thumb rules with the CISM wants you to know, right? So in case, for example, whenever there is an emergency, the most important priority is protecting human lives. So if that's one thumb rule, right? So they may ask you questions around this. They may give you a scenario and say, "What are you going to do?" Well, you will do anything that is required to protect human lives. Okay, that's that's one of the example of a thumb rule. And there are many thumb rules that you need to know, and we will learn about these things. For example, what do you do if there's a regulatory risk or a compliance risk, right? The answer is you will treat it like any other risk, but really need to understand what does that mean. Okay. Time management. What I've just given you is a like the idea as to how to go about preparing for these domains, right? So you need to be able to now break it down. So can you do it in 2 months? I think so. Can you do it 1 month? I think so. You should be able to do it. If you are able to, let's say, complete one domain per week, can you pass the exam in 30 days? Absolutely, yes. I've had many participants who've been able to do so. 2 months, I think, is a good timeline to give you that cushion as well. But if you are a little aggressive and you want to spend more hours, more time every day, you can certainly do so. So create a routine for you. Study every day. Okay, it could be in the morning, could be in the evening, depending on your schedule. You need that support from your family members and your maybe your boss in your office, but you need to study every day. It could be a few minutes or a few hours. Okay, so time management becomes important. Put it in your calendar, and you have to follow this. Okay, you cannot. There's no shortcut. There's no shortcut. You have to put in that hard work and manage your time and study. And it has to be an iterative study as well. So while I've given you like 1 week per domain, but what I've also recommend that in between, come back and quickly visit the domain. So suppose you've finished domain one and now you're in domain two. Now quickly go and visit domain one and see, okay, do I still remember these topics? All right. So quickly uh, going over those topics is a way to kind of put that information into your long term memory. And there are many things you will probably remember today, but you may forget tomorrow. So the only way to remember it is to go over that topic over and over again. You may learn about, let's say, terms like RPOs, RTOs, MTDs, ARWs, STOs, and so on. And you may understand that during the course, but unless and until you go back and study that over and over again, you will not be able to remember it. So, okay, understanding and remembering are two different things. So the way to remember it's by, well, going over that over and over again. Okay. So iterative study is the way to kind of remember those topics for a long term memory. Self assessment. So the Q&A that I talked about is a great way to assess yourself and to know where you are. Again, you will use those Q&As not to study, but to assess. What do I mean by this? What I mean is people just go through those Q&A, try to mug up those points and try to take the exam. And well, I've come across many of them, and I know most many of them have failed the exam because the way to pass the exam is to first understand the concept. That's why you study from the book and use those Q&As to practice and to validate that you have understood those concepts. And if you're consistently scoring about 70 and above, that means you should be able to then uh, be ready for the exam. If you're not, then you go back, study those topics again, and come back and do those assessment again. Okay, so take 10 questions at a time and assess yourself. On an average, if you're scoring 70%, you're doing well. If not, go back and study, iterative study that I talked about. Okay, so self-assessment is a good way to know where you are, how well you're progressing. Avoid cramming. This is one way to fail the exam. This is not one of those exam where there are dumbs and you memorize it and you you know and you pass the exam without understanding a single thing. And here you will need to put in the hard work. You will need to understand the concepts. So instead of cramming, maybe make notes. You go study the flashcards. Practice those questions, right? Prepare mind maps or whatever it takes. So understand it. Oh, cramming is a sure way to fail the exam. You cannot pass this exam by cramming. You have to understand it. The questions are going to be testing your knowledge, your the principle that you've studied, and like I said, to think like a manager. And finally, find a study group. And and so there are different study groups. One of which I think is with the academy here, right? Also, ISACA has different study groups for different courses, so they will find it online. You can join them as well. Okay, and becoming part of the study group, it will help you keep motivated. You can ask questions. You can there are questions that gets shared on those groups on a regular basis. You can attempt those, and yeah, in a way kind of get connected to the community. So that's what I would recommend, study groups. And here are some of the questions, final questions I want you to ask yourself to know whether you are ready to become seasoned. So this first question: do I want to transition into or grow into a manager role within information security? Okay. So one, people, I know a lot of people are very happy in their role as a technician, right? Fixing firewalls and incident management, or doing all of those things. So they're happy with that role. But is your career path where you want to take up that managerial position? Well, then CISM is the right thing for you. If you're happy with the technician role, then CISM may not be the right course. Do my professional experience align with the CISM? Yeah. So again, do you have that experience? Again, if you have just a couple, if you do not have a lot of experience, just a fresher, again, I wouldn't recommend CISM for you at the moment. Okay. Am I willing to commit to the study and preparation required to pass the CISM exam? As I mentioned, there is no shortcut. Okay, no shortcuts. You have to put in the hard work. If you join my batch, I will be helping you with all the important points that you need to understand and remember. So this will probably shorten your study efforts, right? Because I'm going to be highlighting important points for you to understand and remember. But again, I cannot study for you. You will have to study. You will have to prepare and put in that commitment every day. It could be a few minutes, a couple of hours, but keep it every day. Okay, morning, evening, whatever time suits you. And finally, are you prepared to maintain the certification through continuing education? So becoming a CSM is one thing, but then you also have to keep on learning. So you have to earn those CPE points. It's not very difficult though. They expect you to have about 40 CPs in a year, which is like, one CP is about 1 hour of study. Okay, so if you study for 1 hour, maybe attend a webinar for an hour, well, that is about one CPE. And 40 CPs in a year is not a, I don't think is a big deal. It's spending 40 hours for learning in a year is not a big deal. But if you are not willing to do that, then probably you'll again shouldn't be taking the exam. Okay. So these are the question that you probably ask yourself. And yeah, question time. Q&A. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. Very, very informative. So, we have a few questions by Steven. So, I'm going to put them on the screen one by one, and I'll read
Sure.
those out to you in case you can't see the screen.
Yes.
Right. So, the first question is by Steven. Yeah, I think you can see the screen.
Yeah, I can see it. It says, if I don't have managerial experience, will CISM help me get into this role? Definitely yes. Definitely yes. So if your career aligns with becoming a information security manager, and this is one of the best way to gain that information. And yeah, I think so. Just ensure that you're not just a beginner, right? Oh yeah, you mentioned I have 14 years experience pure and technical side, have CISSP, but not into manager role. So can you guide what should be the approach? Fantastic. So you have the experience and you have the CISSP as well, which is one of the most difficult exam, right? And yeah, so I guess, well, the CISSP gives you the broader knowledge, and I think it's very important that you have those kind of knowledge as well. But the CSM is going to give you the depth. So when you actually become a manager, what are the things you're supposed to do, right? And so CSM will give you that depth, and this will certainly align with your role. So again, you do not have to be have a managerial role to become a CSM, right? But it will certainly help you become a manager. So in a sense that then it'll give you the knowledge, it'll kind of CSM will kind of help you make the right decisions. And these are the things which generally get asked even in the interview. They might ask you these questions: what are you going to do in such a scenario? And with the kind of knowledge that you have with CSM and the CISSP, those questions will pretty much, I think, become easy for you to answer. Yeah, I think I will highly recommend, with 14 years experience, uh, in the, yeah, you're on a technical side, but it doesn't really matter. This will certainly help. If you have the technical knowledge, it will certainly help. Yes.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Steven also has a follow up to this.
Hmm.
He's asking if he needs GRC and ISO experience as well.
No, you don't need an experience for GRC and ISO for this to become a CISM. You don't need that experience. But in the role of IT manager or whatever role that you want to play, or in a career as an IT professional, learning never ends. Okay, learning never ends. So next, you want to maybe learn about some ISO certification, like a 27 ISO 27001, the 31001, or take on some GRC courses. I would highly recommend you keep on doing that. Okay. So yeah, so learning will never end. That you will keep on learning, and I highly recommend these courses. But you don't really need to have this experience to become a seasoned, but it will certainly enhance your career. All of these things.
So, sir, as a follow up to Stephen's question, if
Mhm.
somebody is aspiring to go for CISM and they
Mhm.
don't have the requisite experience, where should they start? Is there a certification in mind, or some examination that they need to take, or some kind of a particular skill that they need to have or experience?
No, so again, said that I do not recommend CISM for beginners. So there are many courses for beginners, which you need to have those the that knowledge. Like a course like a Security Plus is really awesome. That gives you the broad knowledge around what security is. Because in the CISM, I'm not going to be teaching you what is CIA, what's a firewall, and all the stuff. You're expected to know these things. And if you're jumping into this course without those fundamental knowledge, you will struggle, right? So I will highly recommend those courses. Um, and so, and like I said, Security Plus, or maybe depending on your like network, like many CompTIA courses give you very lot of foundational knowledge. So I would probably recommend those courses before jumping into CISM.
Right. So starting out with cybersecurity and learning the foundations of it, and then building some years of experience, and then jumping into the CISM.
Absolutely, yes. So even if you have, let's say, those experience, and let's say you have 4 years of experience, and you want to get into a managerial role, not a problem. I think CISM, there is a waiver, and you probably with 4 years you should be able to take the exam as well. If
Right.
somebody
Right.
has
Great.
14 years of experience with Stephen, definitely CISM should be on his milestone. Yes.
Right. Awesome. We have another question by Kalpesh. So he's sending it from LinkedIn.
Okay. I'm into major incident management and aspire to get into GRC. What path should I take to get into season? And what is your experience? How many years of experience do you have?
Right. So you sort of just answered the question when we were having that discussion.
Okay,
So in case he's just starting out, then he should take the Security Plus and those other courses and get into it. Or if he's like an established professional like Steven, then he should like straight away jump into.
exactly, exactly. That's what I recommend. And yeah, so again, keep saying that CISM is one of the milestones that you should have in your career. And well, there are other things like the CISSP, the CCSPs, and so on, many other things. So learning never stops, right? So for me, if you ask me personally, I may have many certifications, I may have those experiences also, but every year I'm at least taking 3 to 4 exams, different exams, maybe even like I might be taking a very basic exam as well, right? Like a CompTIA exam, I might be taking that because I want to learn that information. So it could be any of the uh, any of these courses, but the thing is, you'll have to keep on learning. You have 10 years
Right.
experience, perfect calculation. Yeah. So I guess you should be you should be taking the CSM exam. And CSM, you can consider C risks, you know, which is for the risk management, and something like a CISSP. And if your career aligns with the cloud security, maybe CCSPs, or or CISA, if you want to get into auditors' perspective as well. There's a lot of options out there.
Right, sir. Are there any more questions? So, guys, if you have any further questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. I'm just scoping LinkedIn for any missed questions. Okay, sir. So I think we can wait for another like 10-15 seconds in case there is a lag, and then we can wrap up the session.
Certain.
Okay, so I don't see any more questions. I think we're good to go. So before we go, I just wanted to announce this that as Mr. Sazrai mentioned, he'll be launching a batch with us for the CISM certification training, and it is going to be starting from the 19th of this month, which is 19th October. It's going to be a weekend training, and if you'd like to know more about it, if you'd like to get started on your season journey and end this year with a bang, get a season certificate in hand, then I think this will be the perfect time to start and the most perfect mentor to be on this journey with. So please feel free to give us a call. I will post the number in the, yeah, I'm just going to put the number on the screen so you can give us a call on this, or you can write to us at sales@protect.io. You can find all the information on our LinkedIn as well, and also on our YouTube, wherever you're watching from. And we'd be happy to set you up and help you get started on your training and then get you your certificate in the next 60 days. So, thank you so much, Saz sir, for joining us today. It's always wonderful to have you. And thank you, everybody, for joining this session. And thank you to the ones who are going to be watching the recorded format of it. Always a delight.
Well, thank you for having me here, and thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Bye bye. All the best.
Thank you, sir. See you all in the next one.